My name is Anissa. I'm 22 years old. After my mother died 5 years ago, my father married a woman named Ratna. She's kind, gentle, and always tries to take care of me. But she's not my mother. At first, I refused to accept her. But as time went on, I didn't resist her presence. Not because I loved her, but because something else caught my attention. Booty, her husband, a man in his late 40s, calm face, soft voice, strong arms that I often watched from behind the curtain as he worked in the garden. He's not my biological father, but ever since we lived in the same house, something changed. My heart started racing every time he called my name. Anise, can you bring me some water? Or when he just stared at me quietly from across the room. At first, I thought I was imagining things. But one night, everything shifted. Ratna had fallen asleep on the living room sofa. I went to the kitchen for a drink. Booty was already there, standing in the dark, with only the fridge light glowing. We stared at each other for too long. "You've grown up," he said softly. I didn't reply. My heartbeat was too loud inside my chest. From that night on, the way he looked at me changed. And strangely, I didn't avoid it. I waited for it. And deep down, I knew something forbidden had begun. The next few days felt strange. I kept finding Booty near me, in the kitchen, on the balcony, in the garden, as if he was looking for reasons to be close. He didn't speak much, but his eyes said everything. Then one night, Ratna had to stay overnight at the hospital to care for her sick sister. The house felt too quiet. It was just the two of us. I sat on the porch in my thin nightgown. The wind was cold. Still, I didn't go inside. I waited. I didn't know for what or for whom. Booty came out with 2 cups of warm tea. He sat beside me in silence. "Why aren't you sleeping?" he asked. I shrugged. Then silence. Seconds later, I felt his fingers brushing mine. Softly, but enough to make me tremble. "I can't lie, Anise," he whispered. "Since you've grown, I forget who I'm supposed to be." I turned to him. His eyes were red, his breath unsteady. "We shouldn't," I whispered. "But you're not walking away," he said. "And that's what's driving me mad." That night our hands found each other. Not from love, but from wounds needing warmth. He held me, under the moonlight, and from that moment the line was crossed. Ratna returned the next morning. She looked tired but smiled as she hugged me in the doorway. "Thank you for taking care of the house," she said softly. I nodded and smiled back, but something in me twisted. That smile, the one she gave me so often, the one I never truly appreciated, now it felt like a dagger. Booty was in the living room, pretending to read the newspaper. He didn't look at me, not even once. Everything was quiet, yet my chest screamed with guilt. Ratna cooked lunch and laughed while telling stories about her sister's condition. I tried to laugh too, but the memory of his touch, the way his breath trembled against my skin, wouldn't leave me. That night I couldn't sleep. I walked out to the kitchen to get water. I stopped at the doorway. Ratna and Booty were sitting at the table. She leaned her head on his shoulder. He gently stroked her hair. My stomach sank. I quietly turned away, stepping back to my room. For the first time, I realized what happened between us wasn't just wrong. It was cruel. I wasn't stealing a man. I was breaking a woman who tried to love me like her own child. The days that followed were like walking on glass. Booty avoided me. His silence was heavier than words. But my feelings? They grew more confused. I wanted him near, and yet I wanted him gone. Until one evening, Ratna called me into her room. She smiled, then held my hand. "You've changed lately, Anissa. You seem distracted," she said gently. "Are you okay?" I froze. My mouth wanted to speak the truth, but fear tied my tongue. "I'm fine," I whispered. She nodded, still smiling. "If you ever need to talk, I'm here. I'm not your mother, but I do care for you." Those words shattered me. Her kindness burned more than her anger ever could. And I knew this wouldn't end without someone getting hurt. Booty and I barely spoke. Ratna, as always, moved through the house with kindness and grace, never once suspecting the storm that was brewing between her husband and the girl she called daughter. I started waking up earlier, just to avoid crossing paths with him. I stayed longer at campus, came home late, and hid behind excuses. But fate is cruel when guilt lives in the walls. One evening, Ratna was out buying groceries. I was in the living room trying to distract myself with a book, but the words on the page blurred into nothing. Booty walked in. He didn't say a word. He just stood there, near the window, staring into the dark. Minutes passed. "I can't sleep," he finally said. "I see your face every night." I swallowed hard. I didn't respond. "I didn't plan this, Anissa," he continued. "I didn't ask for these feelings. But they're real." My throat tightened. "You have a wife, Mas. And yet I feel more alive when you're near." I stood up, heart pounding. "Don't say that." He took a step closer. "Why? You felt it too." I turned away, hands trembling. "That doesn't make it right." Silence. Then he whispered, "Tell me to stop and I will." I closed my eyes. Everything inside me screamed for clarity, to end this confusion, this mess. But instead of saying stop, my lips stayed shut. And that silence said everything. He walked away. That night I cried alone. Not because I loved him, I wasn't even sure if I did, but because I had become someone I never wanted to be. The girl who betrayed a woman who opened her arms to her. The girl who knew better, but let silence speak louder than her conscience. Later I heard Ratna come home. Her voice as sweet as always. Her laugh still warm. She had no idea. But something told me she would soon. Because secrets don't stay hidden forever. And the look Booty gave me, even when she was near, was a fire no curtain could hide. Ratna still smiled at me. She still asked about my studies, made my favorite meals, folded my laundry without me asking. Her love was quiet. The kind that made you feel safe without realizing it. And that made it worse. Because I was the knife behind her back. One evening, as we sat at dinner, Booty's phone buzzed on the table. Ratna picked it up, smiling. "You've been getting a lot of late messages lately," she teased, handing it to him. But something in her eyes, it shifted. Just for a moment. A flicker. A shadow of suspicion. Booty took the phone too quickly. And I saw it. The pause, the glance toward me, the awkward silence that followed. That night, she didn't kiss him goodnight. The next morning, she was gone when I woke up. Hours passed. When she returned, she didn't speak. Just went straight to her room and closed the door. By evening, she called me in. Her voice was calm, but her hands trembled. "I saw the messages," she said, eyes fixed on the window. My heart dropped. She turned toward me. Her eyes were glossy, not angry, not cold, just broken. "I gave everything to this home," she whispered. "To you. To him. I thought I finally had a family." "I'm sorry," was all I could say. My voice cracked. My body frozen. "I'm not angry, Anissa," she said. "I'm just tired. So tired." She walked to her wardrobe, pulled out a suitcase, and began to pack. "Wait, you're leaving?" She nodded. "I won't fight over someone who can't stay loyal. And I won't live under the same roof with betrayal." Tears spilled from my eyes. "Please. I never meant to hurt you." She stopped, looked at me, and said something I'll never forget. "You didn't just hurt me, Anissa. You hurt yourself." Then she left. Just like that. The house felt emptier than ever before. Booty tried to speak to me, but I couldn't hear him anymore. The guilt was louder than his voice. Weeks passed. He eventually left too. I never asked where. And I stayed. Alone. In a house full of memories. Behind curtains that could no longer hide the truth. "I'm sorry," was all I could say. My voice cracked. My body frozen. "I'm not angry, Anissa," she said. "I'm just tired. So tired." She walked to her wardrobe, pulled out a suitcase, and began to pack. "Wait, you're leaving?" She nodded. "I won't fight over someone who can't stay loyal. And I won't live under the same roof with betrayal." Tears spilled from my eyes. "Please. I never meant to hurt you." She stopped, looked at me, and said something I'll never forget. "You didn't just hurt me, Anissa. You hurt yourself." Then she left. Just like that. The house felt emptier than ever before. Booty tried to speak to me, but I couldn't hear him anymore. The guilt was louder than his voice. Weeks passed. He eventually left too. I never asked where. And I stayed. Alone. In a house full of memories. Behind curtains that could no longer hide the truth.